Namaste and welcome back. We're on week 2 and this is where the rubber really starts to meet the road. We spent the last week just kind of, mentally preparing, learning some of the fundamental postures and getting into some of the journaling aspects of the program. And by the way, I can't say this enough, daily journaling is so crucial to learning to really clear the fog upstairs. And so that will be the topic for today, is just learning how to clear the mental, emotional and physical fog in the body. Personally, I think that learning to do this efficiently is one of the ultimate skills we can teach ourselves, because it really allows you to truly bounce back from a night out or a negative spiral, or just really think of like unconscious consumption of distracting material extremely quickly. Ready? Let's dive right in. So today we're going to learn some simple tools for emotional regulation, starting from the external and moving inwards. So the first step would be to, of course, just clear up the environment, and then we're going to move using the Pancha Kosha or the 5 Koshas to really understand how to clear the fog. So first off, step number 1 is your environment. It's super important to keep the environment clean. I know this seems like common sense, just clean up your desk before you start your work and all of this, and reduce distractions, put your phone away, blah blah blah. You've already heard all of this and it seems like normal common sense. But today, I'm going to take it one step further, so excuse me if I get a little bit woo-woo spiritual on you here, but you have to keep an open mind and try it before you decide. You see, I grew up in a traditional Indian family and I used to hate it when my mom would burn sambrani at home. And for those of you who don't know, sambrani is this thick, shapeless, lumpy, rock-like material that they burn in Indian homes to remove stale energy in the house as well as get rid of evil spirits and so on. But if you don't believe in that kind of stuff, that's completely fine. But for the rest of us who still have an open mind and really want to clear the fog, I think that it works for me. So more than just walking around clockwise in a room with an insect stick, just waving in circular motions, thinking like you're casting some spell or something, it's more about the intentionality. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. On the one hand, of course, the environment is just an extension of our thought processes. It's just an extension of the way we're thinking. So when there's a clutter in the external world, it's very likely that it's going to be mirrored inside. So think of like a Zen garden. Think of how pristine and immaculately placed everything is. And we know that it actually represents the 5 different elements, the 5 elements that we've studied in school, but the 5th element that's often not talked about is ether. And it has its own intelligence, it has its own memory, and it records these impressions. So whatever feelings or emotional experiences you have had, it will very likely be held in this etheric field. For example, think of the last time you had a house party where everyone was drinking and smoking and doing all of this, and you kind of just feel the next day, even after these people have gone, the energy is extremely scattered, and you want to do this kind of clearing, not just to clean out the plates, remove the red cups, but to really clear out the energetic space. And that's why something like a purifying agent like sambrani is used to purify this field and drive out all these other impressions, to kind of just reset the environment into a more sattvic or light and clear energy within the space. So now let's take a look at how we can work on clearing just in the environment and move towards the body. Now our body is of course made up of 5 sheaths according to Indian philosophy that take you from the most external to the innermost, deepest spiritual core, and according to Vedanta philosophy, these are the sheaths that cover the Atman or the self. The first sheath is called the Annamaya Kosha, or the physical body, this gross and physical body, not like gross like ew gross, but gross as in gross versus subtle gross. So anyway, the first thing that you need to do is to seriously just take a shower, clean your bum. It's simple. Give it some movement. Allow the physical body to run, to jump, to do some sun salutations. It can take 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But more subtly, it refers to the clearing of the toxins within the body that come through, whether it's the food we eat or something that we drink or the things that we consume. Just really think of directly releasing the toxins in the body, and in order to flush out the toxins and cleanse the physical body, you can do a bunch of things like cleaning the body as well as moving the physical body. And now, when you start to do this, let me give you an example. When I started doing a lot of serious yoga, I realized that I used to be really obsessed with like what I put in. Like I used to consume whey at a certain time every day, and I used to be really strict about this when I used to do a lot of gymming. But as I did more yogic practices purely, I started to realize that this cheat day thing where you can eat whatever you want is just kind of silly, because the body just became sensitive to knowing and registering what was good and what was toxic and what was considered or labeled a toxin. So really think about it in your own life. Would you like to really follow a restrictive diet, or make your body so sensitive that at some point it starts to just reject non-sattvic foods? Number 2 is moving on to just the subtle body. Now the subtle body comprises of the Pranamaya Kosha, which is the energy body, the Manomaya Kosha, the mental and the emotional body, and of course the Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the wisdom body. Now the Pranamaya Kosha, or the energy body, is home to this Vata-like movement and the sensory organs and the 5 senses. Now if you've ever been able to experience your own breath as energy, then you've tapped into this vital energy within the body. You may notice that as I say this and as I ask you to say breathe deeper, you notice that automatically there's this postural correction that happens. Like right now as I said this, did you somehow just straighten up and take a deep breath? Yes, you see, this is what we can do. We have access to this kosha and an access to an unlimited source of free healing. So how cool is that? Why don't we use it more often? Just like that, you can use a simple pranayama technique like alternate nostril breathing, or maybe a few rounds of Wim Hof, just to get that prana flowing. Moving on, the Manomaya Kosha is where the mental patterns are formed and where the emotions are stored in the form of energy that then pass through this kosha. This is how we experience our thoughts, both conscious and unconscious thoughts, and how we sort of perceive things through the senses. As human beings, we learn, we think, we create, we make mental images, we form perceptions, we experience emotions, we do all these complex things. But if we see these as just thought patterns, and we can see when they take a grip, then we can sort of see that that's what leads to a mental fog. In Sanskrit, we call these impressions as samskaras, and when we feel really deeply stuck, we say that we have a lot of samskaras. So the goal of yoga is of course to reduce them. And another important and interesting thing is that the whole path teaches you how to reduce them. Not only reducing them, but also replace them. We can replace them depending upon our life choices and our habits. Because samsaras are quite toxic, they can be detoxified entirely. And of course, introspection through movement is of course designed purely to give you an opportunity to examine and notice these kinds of thought patterns and then kind of remove them from the source. But honestly, to give you a simple example, it would involve things just like journaling or self-inquiry or saying affirmations and things like that. Yeah. The next is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the wisdom or awareness body. Now, of course, there is wisdom and there is awareness, and they seem like two different things. But this is basically the kosha where the intuition lives. Now, we all know that we have an inner guiding GPS system, and in Sanskrit they call this the heart mind or the buddhi. Now, this buddhi is this thinking faculty that exists in each and every one of us that helps us discriminate and helps us make value judgments. Now, it's that inner knowing, that knowing that gives you insights that seem to come from some deeper place, but that's where your true creativity resides. And it also strangely has the answers to all your dilemmas and problems. So there's one way to just keep ignoring it and one way to just suppress it, but then we start to no longer trust in our own internal guidance system. So doing a cleanse and really cleansing this kosha will help you discover your inner GPS and reach all your mind-body goals. Some tools to help you with this would be literally to sit down with yourself, get into a really meditative state using breathing techniques, and speak to yourself. Ask yourself about your gut feelings and align with your inner values. Now lastly is the Anandamaya Kosha, or the Bliss body. Frankly, we have not evolved enough to comment on the sheaths because this is the ultimate bliss and the true goal of yoga, and we are still somewhat stuck in the kindergarten of spirituality here. But regardless, it's just to keep it kind of practical. These would involve practices like mantra meditation, chanting, etc. Now to summarize, because I speak really fast. Number 1, clean up your environment, do a smoke out, really use sambrani, sit down, wash your bum, move it around, really move it, breathe, do a bunch of Wim Hof, do all of this stuff, journal, free write, get your mind onto paper. Number 5, sit down with yourself and really ask your inner GPS what's going on, align with your inner values. And number 5, really mantra meditation, true meditation, anything that gets you closer to the Atman of the self and it helps you experience true bliss and true fulfillment is what we want to do. I hope this video was useful because I think using these 5 koshas as a model, we can clear the fog, and these are really practical. So even if you do these in that order, I just think that starting now it's going to take you maybe 20 to 30 minutes if you do them really quickly and efficiently, but you can get into a state where you no longer feel foggy in the head. Without drinking a coffee, without taking a nap for another 45 minutes believing that you will be more energized, but simply through using the tools that we have within us to truly transform our internal states. Thank you so much, namaste, and I hope to see you again in the next video.